Do you struggle feeling burnt out studying Korean? 한국어 공부할 때 재미가 다 없어졌어요? In this video, I'm going to teach you 3 tips on how to overcome feeling burnt out when studying Korean, and these things also apply to any other language study that you could be doing. So if that sounds like what you're looking for, stay tuned because we're going to jump into it right now. 바로 시작합시다. So your why for studying Korean is shame? 친구들이 안녕하세요. 저는 필리피고 지금은 Korean Corner 보는 중이에요. And in Korean Corner, we want to help you learn to love Korean through language, culture, and comedy. If that's the type of thing you're interested in, please consider subscribing. Alright, so this is a feeling that we've all had when studying a language, in this case studying Korean. Now I've been studying Korean for 10 years, and I to this day still feel a little bit burnt out sometimes when I try to study something new, or when I try to do something that I've struggled with for a long time. So I'm going to give you 3 tips to help you avoid feeling burnt out when studying Korean, and be sure to stay tuned to the very end where I'll give you my number 1 tip, the thing that really keeps me going when I'm studying Korean. So tip number 3 is set small goals and celebrate small victories. Setting small goals could be as simple as this week I will study 5 minutes every day. That's a goal that you can achieve. You can, as I mentioned in a previous video, which you can see in the YouTube card, you can study for 5 minutes just sitting on the toilet and feel like you accomplished your goal, and that'll help you avoid feeling burnt out. Maybe your goal is something else, like meet a new friend that you can practice speaking or typing with. That's a goal that you can achieve. All you have to do is do that. You don't have to have a huge goal like be able to speak fluently by the end of XYZ point. If you set small goals, you'll eventually build up to bigger goals, and you will feel more motivated to continue studying. The second part of that is celebrate small victories. Now for you, a small victory may be successfully introducing yourself in Korean. For me, a small victory might be saying a Korean word that I've struggled with for a long time and not getting mocked by my wife. Hey, Yobo.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the store today, can you get me some kurta?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Oh, I'm just excited that you didn't make fun of me when I said it that time.
So what?
Kurta. Well, it was worth a shot. And maybe I'm not there yet. By the way, if you missed that video, I'm going to link it up here in the YouTube card and also down in the description. Feel free to check that out after this video ends. Now, the second tip for avoiding burnout when studying Korean is to stop comparing yourself with other people. Now, obviously, you want to have some bar for if your Korean is improving or not. However, the problem is most of the people that you see and could compare yourself to have been studying Korean for a really long time. In my case, like I mentioned, I've been studying Korean for 10 years. So if you're brand new starting out studying Korean, it doesn't make a lot of sense for you to compare your Korean to my level of Korean. One of my mentors on YouTube has this phrase, and he says, don't compare your start to someone else's middle or end. That's really good advice, honestly. Whether you're studying a language or doing anything else, don't compare yourself to other people. You don't know what they've been doing or how they got to the point where they are right now. All you need to do is set a goal and try to achieve it. So, for example, for me, when I was studying Korean, one of the things that I really compared myself to frequently was Bijong Sanghoedam, and I just felt overwhelmed because the people on that show spoke Korean fluently, and I just couldn't at that point. Now, as I continued getting better and better, I got to the point where I genuinely thought that I could have been on the show, but at the time when I was watching the show frequently, when I was first learning, it was just overwhelming and made me feel really frustrated and like I wanted to quit. Avoid that by comparing yourself to where you were the day before. Alright, so we're at the point now where I'm going to share with you the number 1 tip for how you can avoid burnout studying Korean. But if you are getting value out of this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel. Okay, so the number 1 tip for avoiding burnout when studying Korean is to focus on your why. Now, what does that mean? Every one of us started studying Korean for one reason or another. Whether you love K-pop and wanted to be able to read the lyrics to your favorite songs, or whether you had some Korean friends that you wanted to be able to have more in-depth conversations with, whatever the case may be, focus on that. That won't go away. Your love for K-pop won't go away. Your friend who speaks Korean, but you want to have real meaningful conversations with, that person's still going to be there. In my case, I sort of fell in love with the culture. And every time I went to Korea, I fell more and more in love with the culture. And that why, love for the culture, helped me continue studying more and more each and every day. Find your why and focus on it. If you do that, you will be able to overcome any feelings of fatigue or burnout because that will keep you driving forward. So you know my why. Let's see what my wife's why is. She also speaks Korean, and she is half Korean, so let's see what her why is. Hey Yobo.
Huh?
I'm filming a video for my channel about having a good why for studying Korean.
Having a good wife?
Why? What is the reason that you study Korean?
I don't study Korean.
I mean, you speak Korean, right? 한국말 할수 있죠.
Okay, but mine's different than yours.
What do you mean?
If I don't speak Korean, then I'll be ashamed.
So your why for studying Korean is shame? That's sad. Okay, well, you need to have a good why if you're not Korean, apparently. So let me know in the comments, what is the reason that you study Korean? What is your why? It could be anything, small or big, but I do want to know in the comments, what is the reason that you study Korean? So that's it for this video, everybody. I hope that you did enjoy it. If you did, consider sharing it with a friend who would also enjoy it or who may be feeling burnout studying language. I'll see you all next time. 다음 볼 때까지 잘 있어.
The memories. That's a touchy subject.
All right.
Keep dancing with the devil, but it is a lie.